Today at page 23, Tractate Shabbat, we're going to discuss the Hanukkah, lighting candles, what exactly the fulfillment of the mitzvah, variation of halakhot involved in Hanukkah, and much more. So, let's wrap up so far what we study. We learn when we're lighting candles, if there's no fear of anti-Jewish movement, we should light the candle outside of our home. In that sense, putting it outside, we are promulgating, we're publicizing the mitzvah, and then people will see it and follow or aware of the mitzvah, and that's one phase of the importance of Pirsumei Nisal, to publicize the miracle. Now, morning. The two opinion with that, I would like to review with, especially for those who wasn't here yesterday. One opinion hold Hadlaka osa mitzvah. Another opinion said Hanukkah osa mitzvah. What does that mean? A person has a menorah. He, let's say, if today, just for the sake of understanding, is the 4th day of Hanukkah. He put the 4 candles. Let's say it's a very fastidious individual, and he used the olive oil of 4 candles, make it beautiful at the menorah. Now he made the bracha, the first one, the second one, and then he light the menorah. Where he lit the menorah? On his kitchen table. Then he pull out the menorah and put it outside, as we said, to do what? Pirsumei Nisa, to publicize the miracle. One opinion said Hadlaka osa mitzvah, which means the same way if you take an apple and you said Bore priya etz Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Bore priya etz, and then you eat it, you fulfill the mitzvah when you complete the blessing and eat it. Lighting candles, you say the bracha, the minute you follow up by lighting it, then you fulfill the mitzvah of rabbinic commandments, rabbinic mitzvah to light Hanukkah candles. The second point of view said, wait a second, that's not the end of the story. What is the end of the story? You need to publicize it. What is the publicizing? So, put it, for example, outside of your home. So the minute you put it, Hanukkah, meaning you put it down, that basically created a completion of mitzvah. So now the Gemara concluded that what's the completion is hadlaka, which means lighting the candles regardless to what happened later, which is very important to publicize the miracle. But the key is hadlaka, the minute you're lighting the candles, that's the fulfillment of mitzvah. How? So they bring a proof from different source. Here we are, page 23 at the top of the page. תשמע אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, הששית שהייתה דולקת והולכת כל היום כולו, למוצאי שבת מכבה ומדליקה. He said if it was a glass lantern, it was standing on the Shabbat, and then it continue on. So again, imagine a person take a Hanukkah candle, put it in the jar of olive oil. Olive oil, it's not only clear, it's also, if you put it in a large size of the jar, it can be for a long time. So what do you need to do first, if it's a Erev Shabbat? First, he light the Hanukkah candles, then he light the Shabbat candles, because the minute you light the Shabbat candles, you cannot light the Hanukkah candles. And now, because he put a lot of oil there, it's already not only for that time, it continue on. So if Shabbat, soon we change the time, and for the sake of understanding, Shabbat start of, let's say, 4:30, and that fellow lit the candles at 4:20. So on Motzei Shabbat, it's still on, because he put a lot of olive there. So the Gemara said, what did he do now? So they said, LeMotzei Shabbat mechaba umadlika. Guess what he need to do? He need to extinguish it on Motzei Shabbat. Okay, so for the understanding, let's say that fellow made Havdalah. Not everyone agree, but let's say he made Havdalah. And after he made the Havdalah, now he wants to light Hanukkah candles following day. But he had already candle from yesterday. So what did he need to do? He extinguished it, right? And then the next thing, he lighted Hanukkah candles. Now they ask a question. I amart bishlama hadlaka osa mitzvah shafir. Okay, if you tell me that the key point is doing what? Lighting the candles. That's creating the mitzvah. So we understand that he need to extinguish the yesterday, what he lit on Friday night, in order to fulfill a new mitzvah, which is on Motzei Shabbat on Saturday night for the new day. The day start at night before, right? אלא יאמרת, הנחה עושה מצווה. היי מחבר ומדליקה, מחבר ומדליקה, ומדליקה ומדליקה, מבעיה. If you tell me the key point is doing what? Taking the menorah and putting it outside, and that's the fulfillment of the mitzvah. So what the difference does it make if you extinguish it and not extinguish it, right? Since you put it outside and that's the key of the mitzvah, so that's it. That's the key point. Tosfot, by the way, asked a question. He said, why bother? If you tell me that the hanacha osa mitzvah, that putting it outside, that's the key mitzvah, why need to extinguish and doing back and forth, back and forth? Leave it. Just light another one for the new day, another candles. In other words, for example, if Friday night was the 4th day, Saturday night is the 5th day, you lit for the 4th and all the 4th are on in Motzei Shabbat outside, so you just need to lit another one, the 5th one, and that's it. Why you need to extinguish and relit it? So he said, the Tosfot said that, also the Maharsha said, that originally he lit those candles for Shabbat. But not everyone agreed. Rashi didn't agree with the Ramban. Ran said the issue here, when you're putting outside the menorah, what happened? Imagine even in nowadays, you see sometimes at the center, like the mall, in the big cities, etc., you see the big menorah. So it's for people, secular people, etc., non-Jews, all kind of people that walk in and see the menorah. Oh, it's a Hanukkah, it's a Jewish holidays, right? That's now. What do the people who see it think? They think that because you lit it yesterday, he think that the person just lit it for himself. He doesn't know that it's for Hanukkah because he already saw it yesterday. So, in short, the Gemara said, forget it. The key is hadlaka osa mitzvah, which means lighting the Hanukkah candles, that's create the mitzvah, not putting it outside. Another proof, ve'od, middeka mevarchina, because we make the bracha, Baruch ata Hashem, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של חנוכה. Shma mina, hadlaka osa mitzvah, shma mina. Fantastic. He said, look at the language the sages instituted of Hanukkah. What's the language? Blessed are you, God, Master of the universe, who sanctified in His commandment and commanded us, told our sages, okay, to light the Hanukkah candles. So what are you saying? You're saying the commandment is doing what? Lighting the candles. Therefore, what we understand from that lighting the candles, that's the mitzvah. not putting it outside as much as it's important to publicize the miracle. Is that clear? Tosfot, by the way, add from that our minhag is not to transfer from one candle to another. You remember we discussed it yesterday and day before yesterday? We should have the shamash, the servant, you know, is the shamash, the one who serve everyone else. That's the one who transfer, but not take from one candles and lit at the other. Magen Avraham and Mishnah Brura also dealt with this question if it's applied to Ner Shabbat. So for example, if you're lighting Shabbat candle, or your wife lighting Shabbat candle, and she lighting, like by us, 7 candles. We have, Baruch Hashem, 5 children and 6 grandchildren. So my wife have the idea that she's lighting candles for everyone. So the Mishnah Brura asked a question: can she transfer one candle to another on Shabbat and from the Nero Shabbat? So it's not so simple. But the best case scenario, because remember, when she's lighting something, if she uses a large match, which I always recommend, you know, those very large ones, that's fine. But if she uses one of the candles, so she's basically transferring the light from one to another. Okay? Next discussion. We are now wants to drive you, the rabbi said, not only a esoteric, obstructive discussion. Now we want to show you that our discussion has a lot of practical application. Let's see what is that. V'hashta de amrinan hadlaka osa mitzvah. And since we concluded that what? That lighting candles, that's created the mitzvah. Hidlika cheresh shote vekatan. If a deaf mute or insane person or minor kindled the Hanukkah light, all these 3 examples, you see it throughout the Shas a lot. 3 examples: someone who cannot hear, someone who's insane, someone who's not mentally capable, or someone who is too young for lighting candles. So these 3 examples of people who are exempt or cannot fulfill that mitzvah properly. Correct? It's not only on Hanukkah. So he said, Lo asa velo chlum, which means it's meaningless. Why it's meaningless? Because let's say if some person is insane, he doesn't know what he's saying. A person is a deaf. So can I hear from a deaf person who cannot hear himself, or cannot hear me, or a minor that he is too young? All right. So so if you hear, if those 3 make them isha vaday madlika ner Hanukkah, however women, they should light Hanukkah candles. And the Taz tell us in Taf Resh Ayin Hey, in the Siman 675, he said that she's not only light the Hanukkah candles, if needed, for example, if the husband is not there, for example, if the husband is not capable, God forbid he's in a wheelchair, or all kind of situation, she can light the candles, and also she can exempt her family member, for example, from lighting the candles. She can do it for the entire family. Okay? How come? So he explained, the Amar, that's very important, listen carefully, the Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Nashim chayavot bener Chanukah, she'af hen hayu be'oto hanes. The Mishnah in Kiddushin said, in 29 Kiddushin, that mitzvot aseh she'azman grama, which means certain mitzvot that relate to the time, specific time, Nashim, the women, are free from those mitzvot. In other words, if women wants to be part of Sukkah, good. But she does not have the same responsibility, obligation that man has by halakha. The specific mitzvot that apply to certain time period apply to men only. Again, listen to language. If they wish to, they can, but they do not have the same obligation this man has. So that applies not only biblical, but according to Tosfot in Psachim, it's also applied to rabbinic commandment. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi hold that lighting Hanukkah candles, it's an exception, and women are also obligated. The Mishnah Berurah explained in Tafresh Ayin Hey, the same Siman, that the obligation applied to them as well. How come? So here they use the word that they too were involved in a miracle. What exactly they involved in a miracle? Rashi explained it here, and he said, שגזרו יוונים על כל בתולות הנשואות להיבעל לתפסר תחילה ועל ידי אישה נעשה הנס. He said that the Assyrian Greek put a decree that any virgin woman that wants to get married, she have first to have relation with the dictator. One of my friend is a Yemenite rabbi in New York, in Staten Island, New York. He allowed me, so I mentioned even his name. His name is Rabbi Ezra Admoni. He is from Yemen. He have 11 children. Very important rabbi in Staten Island, New York. We study Chavruta when I was a rabbi 5 years in New Jersey. We studied Chavruta 5 years. So he told me once, we sat together, we have the chief rabbi of Bnei Brak in Israel, Rabbi Korach there, and we discussed a lot of things. So one of the things come up, someone asked them about the Temanim, the Yemenite Jews that came to Israel when it was the very beginning of the state, at the 40s, late 40s, early 50s. They came with more than one wives from those villages. So Rabbi Admoni and Rabbi Korach explained to us that it was a certain villages that whoever is the leader, can be sheik or whatever, one of those controller, dictator, whatever it is in those villages, have the rules that a girl that passed certain age and not married, she needs to have first relation with him. And because the Jewish community were very concerned about those girls, so what they do, they have a man married sometimes more than one, even at a very young age, like 14, like 16, in those small villages. And those quote-unquote wives, whatever you call them, they are like sisters. The culture was very different. And it was in order to save them from the dictator, from the decree of the dictator. Sound to us in the Western culture a little weird, but that's the way it is. So I said to them at that time that now I understand what they said about the ancient time, the Assyrian Greek, that was the rules in that time. You know, when you are under the dictatorship of someone else, you have to abide by all kind of rules that sometimes are very irrational and weird and cruel, etc. So since women involved in that great miracle, that's one point. So by the way, it's not mine, it's exactly what Rashi said here, clearly, word by word. Another one is the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, great Sephardic rabbi, who said that it's a famous midrash about Yehudit, about Judith. Judith, according to that midrash, she was the daughter of the high priest, whose name is Yochanan Kohen Gadol. And according to the story, she went outside of the city wall of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem. She went to the armed base outside of that city, and she said that she wants to have contact with the head of the army, the one who controlled the city, and she brought him cheese, and she brought him a wine, etc. And then when he was full drunk, according to that midrash, which the Ran quote and other quoted, she cut off his head, and she brought it to Jerusalem. According to that midrash, she put the head at the entrance of the city, and all of his armed men, the next morning, when they realized that he's dead, they all ran away for their lives. And then that created the next thing, which is the famous story of how the Maccabees came and cleared the Beit HaMikdash and re-inaugurate the Beit HaMikdash, etc. So in other words, she is the cause of the miracle of Hanukkah. Yehudit, Judith, is the cause. So here, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tells us that because the women are the cause of this miracle, therefore they have an obligation, unlike mitzvat aseh shazman grama, unlike regular situation that it's mitzvah depend upon a time that we are free, they are free. When it's come to Hanukkah, since they are partake, or you may say even the cause, therefore they are obligated with Hanukkah candles. Now, next subject is, since we said that Hanukkah candles, you have to put it outside of the house. And we explained earlier, if you remember 2 days ago, we explained that if a person feared of anti-Jewish, anti-Semite, or whatever it is, so he can put it inside his house. Otherwise, he should publicize it. So now, the next question we're going to discuss is, what happens if you are a guest by someone else? Amar Rav Sheshet, Achsenai chayav bener Chanukah. Imagine you need to go to South Africa to visit your family, right? Or you go to Panama to visit your family, and now you're guest by someone else. So Rav Sheshet said you have to light Hanukkah candles. So the question is that mean that you have to bring your candle and light it there, or you can depend upon the owner of the house? Amar Rabbi Zera said, Mereish ki avina be'irav, when I study in yeshiva and I live by the house of others, which means when you study in yeshiva outside of your home, so you study Torah and you stay by other people's houses, Mishtatafna bepritei behadei ushpiza, I participated by giving some small amount of money, but still being part of that in the mitzvah of lighting candles, which means by giving him some money, pruta, it's like a dime, it's a nickel, it's a very small amount. What's the idea? So the Mishnah Berurah said in Tafresh Ayin Zayin, he said that it's not the idea of sharing the expense, because pruta can be, for example, if it costs the owner, if he use olive oil, etc., it costs him, let's say, $5. So if you're giving a nickel or dime, it's not that you are really share the expense. It means that you partake, even the smallest measure, with the mitzvah of lighting candles. So it's not just him, you are part of the mitzvah. By the way, that's halakha, practical halakha. But if you're a guest, you have to give even a small amount just to be part of the mitzvah. Batar de nesive iteta amina. Now, after I got married, so sometimes I go to other people for all kind of reasons to study Torah, etc. So I said, "Hashta vaday lo tzrichna, dekamadliki alay bego beitai." Since we said earlier that the wife can light candles and can exempt others, so if you know that your wife lighting candles at home, so your wife is like you, ishtoki gufo dami. So if you're a guest by someone else and she light the candles, you're exempt. She fulfilled the mitzvah for you. By the way, that's halakha. The Mishnah Berurah said she can light the candles for you, only with one condition. The Taz said, if you know 100% that she does that. Nowadays, you can text her or pick up the phone or send her an email, right? And confirm that she's doing that for you. Clear? Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Now we going back to the subject of using olives. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Kol hashmanim kulan יפים לנר ושמן זית מן המובחר. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, all the oil good for Hanukkah candles. Why we need to say that? Do you remember the subject of this chapter? We discuss in Shabbat that not all the olives are good. Some of them are not long enough. Some of them doesn't carry the right perfumes, etc. It's all kind of issues of lighting candles for Shabbat. But when it's come to Hanukkah, right, it's different. Why? Do you remember that we said several days ago that if you lit it and it's on, or how long the Hanukkah candles need to be on? You remember we discussed it? How long?
Minimum of 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Kavta, if it extinguished, all of a sudden there was a strong wind and it's no longer candles. You don't need to relight it.
No, you've already met your obligation by lighting them.
Excellent. The minute you did it, you fulfill your obligation. That's not like anything else. So they said, but the best thing is olive oil. Soon we explain why. Amar Abaye said, Meresh hava kamehadar mara mishcha de shum shumei. He said, originally I use a sesame oil. Sesame oil is a healthy oil. It's good oil because it's clearer. It's good. Amar hay mashach nehorat fei. Because olive oil, it's excellent, but it's gone quickly. He said sesame oil, longer. That's what Rashi said. Kevan de shamal elad Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. What did Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi say? That olive oil is the best of the best. Mehadara mishcha de zeita. I went out of my way to get an olive oil, which most probably it's much more expensive. If we look at nowadays in the stores, that olive oil, it's much more than any other, right? Amar haitzlil neorei tfei. That the light of the olive oil, it's much clearer, and therefore, for the mitzvah, I'm using it. That's, by the way, halacha lemaaseh, practical halacha. That both in Hallchot Shabbat and Hallchot Hanukkah, the best is, the most scrupulous way to do it is to use olive oil. That's the, it's called tzalul shebashmanim. That's the clearer of all the oils, and they bring the best light. I think I mentioned that my late father-in-law, he used to follow on Shabbat, not only in Hanukkah, to light olive oil. And from time to time I have guest rabbonim that I notice they do that. They're using olive oil not only for the Hanukkah, but also for Shabbat. Anyway, that's the highest. Since we talk about olive oil, we bring another מאמר from him. ואמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, כל השמנים יפים לדיו ושמן זית מן המובחר. So, when they prepared a sacred document, what is a sacred text? The Torah, the prophets, the chronicles, to write get, to write any rabbinic contract, etc., to both. All these type of things, they use an ink. They use the special scroll, and they use the ink. So in order to make it, he says the different oil that you use for that ink, but the most advisable and preferable is what? Olive oil. He's saying. Ibayaleu. So, since we discussed this issue, they want to know, what do you mean by saying you should use olive oil? Is that applied to what? Legabel or le'ashen? When you said, when they beginning the process of the inking, so you put this glass vessel, and if you pay attention when you light candles or anything in the vessel, you see after it's extinguished, it's all dark. It's all black, dark, what left over, right? From the lightings. So he said, on the process to make the ink, you lighting the candle, the oil candle in the glass vessel until that glass vessel turn black from the smoking of the candle, and what left in that vessel they used to scratch out, and they put together with a little oil, and after that dry out in the sun, they used to cover it, and that make it as a ink. That's the process in ancient time. So you have here a process of doing two things. One it's called a legabel, and one it's called le'ashen. One is called to knead, and one is to smoke. So he said, the question is where the olive oil is the oil of choice for creating the soot or for use in kneading it. That's the question. Tashma, the Tane Rav Shmuel בר זוטרי, כל השמנים יפים לדיו ושמן זית מן המובחר בין לגבל בין לעשן. He says all the olive are good for to create a dio, for the production of black ink, but the best is the olive oil, regardless for either for the smoke or for kneading. Both of them is good. רב שמואל בר זוטרא מתנא אחי, כל העשנים יפים לדיו ושמן זית מן המובחר, which means he's talking about something else, about smoke that generated from the oil. So he said all of them, but the best is, again and again you see the same pattern applied to what? The olive oil is the best. אמר רב הונא, כל השרפים יפים לדיו ושרף כתף יפה מכולם. He says, since we talk about the srafim, we talk about the gums, so all the gums are appropriate for production of black ink, but the black throat gun is the best. So Rashi explained that the saraf, he called it guma. Tosfot said that saraf, it's what the little dripping from the tree. That's the saraf. What?
Sap.
Sap.
Mm-hmm.
Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi. Now we discuss the brachot of lighting Hanukkah candles. המדליק נר של חנוכה צריך לברך, ורב ירמיה אמר הרואה נר של חנוכה צריך לברך. The first rabbi said that one who lighting candles need to make the blessings. The other one said that when you see it, when you walk in the market, the one tells us that when you walk in the market and you see it, so for example, you go on a city dock, downtown city, and you see an observant Jew on his boat, on his yacht, right, lighting Hanukkah candles, right? So according to this, Rav Yirmiyah, you have to make two brachot. If you didn't leave the candles at your home, and you see him lighting candle, and you don't plan to do it that night, so you see that fellow does that, so the Mordechai and the Bach, the Rashba, the Ran, all of them said that you can stand there and you can make two brachot. Amar Rav Yehuda, what type of blessing you need to make? יום ראשון הרואה מברך 2, ומדליק מברך 3, מכאן ואילך מדליק מברך 2 ורואה מברך 1. The first day of Hanukkah, so the one who light the candles need to make 3 blessings. One, להדליק נר. Second, שעשה ניסים, that God created great miracles. And the third one is שהחיינו. שהחיינו always at the first, when it's beginning. שהחיינו, right? Blessing God for the goodness, sustenance for the beginning. So he said, since you are not the one who lighting the candles, so if you just see it, you should make 2 at the first night. While the one who does that should make 3. That's apply only to the first night. Second night, he said that, and onward, the one who light the candles will make 2 brachot, להדליק נר שעשה ניסים, and one will make only one. So as he said, what does that mean, make one? מה ממעט? Which one you take out for the one who sees? He said, ממעט זמן. ממעט זמן meaning, if the first night you take out שהחיינו, we understand. So he said, ונמעות נס, we should take out the שעשה ניסים, right? Because if you tell me that it's enough to make the blessing of שהחיינו the first night, and that apply for the whole festival of 8 days, so why you don't do the same thing with a miracle? You said, thank you God for the miracle of the first night, and that wrap up the whole 8 days. So they bring a very important response, and they said, Nes kol yomei ite. Refresh our memories. They went to the holy temple, the Beit HaMikdash, and they discovered this jar. And that jar was supposed to be for 1 day, and it was good for the whole time. Meaning that each and every day is a separate miracle. It's not just one miracle that applied for the whole 8 days. Each and every day they not expected to have this little jar good enough for lighting the menorah. You got it? So even it was a miracle the first day, each and every day is a separate miracle. So therefore, the sages instituted to do She'asa Nisim, that God created miracle each and every day of the 8 days. She'echiyanu, however, is only for the first day. Because what we said in She'echiyanu, Vehigi'anu lazman hazeh, that God help us to reach this point. Reach this point happened only one time. Now, what did they say? Mai mevarech. When you're lighting Hanukkah candles, what you should say? Mevarech, that's the bracha. You see here the source. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav, that sanctified in His commandment. Vetzivanu, and He commanded us, להדליק נר של Hanukkah, to light the Hanukkah candles. והיכן ציוונו? Every year I hear this question. What did God commanded us? You know that Hanukkah, it's a rabbinic commandment. And you tell me that God commanded us. So they answered and they said, Rav Avya Amar, milot asu. Rav Nehemia Amar, al avicha v'yagedcha zkenecha v'yomru lach. Not long ago, we learned the book of Dvarim, the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, in chapter 17, the Torah tells us that in each and every generation, we have leaders. We have the rabbis, the sages that lead us, that tells us what to do and teach us a practical application halachot to our times. So therefore, since the rabbis institute, they have the strength as the Torah, and therefore we will not allow, the Torah said, to deviate from what they tell us. Even they tell us left to right and right to left, and it appear irrational and opposite, we have to follow the psak halacha, the halacha of the luminary rabbis in our generation. So therefore, since the rabbis instituted to make the Hanukkah festival, it's have the strength as the Torah itself. That's one way. Another way, he said in the very end of Deuteronomy, in chapter 32, they said, you shall ask your father and he'll tell you, and the elders will lead you. So it's a long discussion, by the way, in the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvot and Ramban, and there's Chidushei Aran. There's many rabbis have a discussion if something that the rabbis instituted has the same power as the Torah itself or not. But here you just see sources that try to prove the point that's the source of saying God who commanded us to light the Hanukkah candles. Even you don't see that commandment in the Torah itself, only it's deriving from the idea that we have to follow the current generation's rabbinic authority. Clear? Okay. Now, we ask a question. If you tell me that I have to follow the rabbis in every generation and make it as a same authority, I give you some example that we don't do that. Example. Mativ Rav Amram. Rav Amram asked from a Mishnah in the Tractate Dmai. Hadmai. Dmai meaning something that you need to bring a tithe and you're not sure. It's called Da-mai. Da-mai meaning if you live in Eretz Israel, you have your field that was purchased from someone who's not educated. Uneducated, ignorant person. So you're not sure if that fellow put a tithe or not. So since you are not sure, what do you have to do? You have the obligation to have a tithe. It may turn that fellow did already tightening the fruits or vegetables, but since you're not sure, is Ama Aretz, is ignorant, you have to do it. Da, mai, this in Aramaic is what? You're not sure if you did it or not. What do you derive from that? That before you put the tithe, you cannot eat it. Now, you can use it for certain purposes. So he said, me'arvim bo u'mishtatfim bo. If you remember earlier, we studied in Shabbat that when you need to make an eruv, chatzeirot, which means you have a development, and the different people live in that development, right? Like you, there is a large development, and many people live there. They have whatever it is, row houses, townhouses, whatever it is, and there's many people in that. And you have a yard that they have a playground and all kind of things that belongs to all the children in that area, for example. So if you want to carry within that yard, you need to make an eruv chatzeirot, which means all these yards participated. So you remember we talked about eruv and we said that when you need to have a shitufei mevuot, for example the alley that it's connected to all the neighbors, you need to use some food in order to partake of that mitzvah. In other words, for you to carry in that yard, right, that belongs to several neighbors, the rabbi said that you are forbidden if you don't put an eruv. So the same way as we said an eruv tchumin, that you need to go above the alpayim amar, you need to put the food there, right? So the same in all of them, you can use what? The my food. Again, what is the my food? Is the food that wasn't tight. You're not sure if it was tight or not, so you are forbidden to eat it. Yet, you can use it for what purpose? To make the eruv. Okay? And therefore, what do you do? Umevarchin alav, Rashi said, Amotzi lechem min haaretz. Umezamnim alav, you can make a zimun for birkat hamazon, umafrishim oto arom. Another person can make the tithe while he is undressed, uben hashmashot, even when it's close to Shabbat. So he clarified his question, Rav Amram. Ve'i amrat kol midrabanan bai bracha. If you tell me that whatever the sages instituted, they have to make a bracha for that, hacha, when a person take a tithe from demai, from something that is not clear if it was tightened or not, if he's undressed, how will he be able to make the bracha? Inappropriate. Person cannot make the bracha while he's naked, right? He's standing before the Lord. The Torah said in Dvarim, in the Deuteronomy 23, that you camp should be holy. You should be holy. Veleika. When a person is not dressed, it's insulting. You cannot make while a person is undressed the bracha. Correct? So, what do you prove from that? That rabbinic mitzvah, you don't make a bracha. Isn't that contradicted what we said earlier? Because what we said earlier, that we do make bracha for rabbinics. Amar Abaye, vadai de divrehem bae bracha. sure, the rabbis institute, you have to make bracha. And that's what Rashi explained, the Ran explained. Safek de divrehem lo bai bracha. Safek de divrehem meaning, when it's come to the mai, you're not sure if you have to make a bracha or not, because maybe the Ama'aretz, the guy who was not educated, maybe he already tightened. So because that fellow may tighten, we don't require you to make the bracha. It's okay for you, or it's proper for you, to put it tight. Why? Because if he didn't do it, somebody needs to do it, so you do it. But because it's safek, because it's not clear, it may turn that the other fellow did it already. Therefore, we require you to tighten, but we not require you to do bracha. So therefore, you cannot juxtapose the Dmai to Hanukkah. Clear? Okay. So now we ask another thing. V'ha yom tov sheni, the safek divrehem hu bai bracha. Anyone who live outside of Eretz Israel in the diaspora, they have the second day of holidays, such as Passover, Shavuot, Sukkot. We have 2 days Yom Tov to this very day outside of Eretz Israel. Now, the question is, since the whole source of doing that, it was because he's not sure about the proper time of Yom Tov, so how come you ask a person to make a bracha on the second Yom Tov equal to the first one, since it's all derived from the idea that you're not sure if it's Yom Tov? If you tell me in the Mai that when it's a safek, it's something that is not clear, you should not make a bracha, even you tighten it. So why you require a person for the second day of the holiday of any festival to make an equal bracha for that day, since the whole institution of that day in the diaspora come from the idea of I'm not so sure when exactly it was a Yom Tov? So here, hatam ki echa delo lezilzulei bei. By the way, that's also a practical halacha that we have in a traditional Judaism. The importance, like someone asked me, how come we have a separate celebration for Shmini Atzeret and Simchas Torah, too many holidays, that fellow said. We said that we hold that equally, and people should not belittle it. Lezilzule, meaning people that belittle it. Like you see some movements that they like combine, like they do it in Eretz Israel. Wrong. Any place in outside of Israel, it's a separate day, separate a festival. So in order for people not to belittle the second Yom Tov, so the rabbis put the idea of making it the brachot equal to the first one. Rava have a different way of looking at this. He said, Rova me'aretz me'asrinen. Don't think that people who are not educated don't tighten. This is just the stringencies that the rabbi said. Most of the people who are not educated, they do tighten their field. Again, you have to remember that in those days, people who are not educated are not the same as in nowadays people who are not educated. But the whole idea of the second day of the holidays, it's because they want to strengthen the importance of the rabbinic commandment. Now, since we talk about that lighting Hanukkah, we derive other important הלכות. אמר רב הונא, חצר שיש לה שני פתחים צריכה שתי נרות. If you have a courtyard that they have 2 entrances, they have to have 2 candles of Hanukkah. Right? It's a machloket Rashi and Tosfot. The big question is if that yard they have 2 entrances to the public domain, but we don't go there. אמר רבא, לא אמר רבא משתי רוחות, אבל מרוח אחת לא צריך. It's all apply if they open to north, to east, but if they both the same entrance, so you don't need to light candles in both of them. מאי טעמה? What's the reason? אילמה משום חשדה. That if someone pass by, someone think that it belongs to 2 people, חשדה דמאי. Who is suspected? אם החשדה דעלמא, If you worry if people will pass by and is not sure if one or two people, so it's always people thinking all kind of things. People may think that the house divided to two people, that one of them did not light the Hanukkah candles. If you're worried that people in the neighborhood or the city were talking, you worry about that, so people always think all kind of things. So it said, that they suspect that people in the city will think that the Meiri said, that the people will start thinking that, guess what? One guy's there is not religious and not lighting Hanukkah candles. Only one guy did it, right? And in order to avoid this type of lashon hara or thinking, and sometimes people pass by one entrance and not the other entrance. Because they see only one side and they figure out and that person did not light the candle, so they didn't even think that that light the other. So in other words, the whole purpose, the Ran, the Meiri, the Rama, all the Meforshim said that the only reason you do it, it's because you want to avoid people talking. So because of that, you don't need to make a separate bracha for the second location, the second place you place it. Why do you care if people said? Why do you care if people talk? Especially in these countries, there are a lot of privacy. So why do you care if people said? תניא אמר רבי שמעון, בשביל 4 דברים אמרה תורה להניח פאה. You know, one of the mitzvot in the Torah is to leave the corner for the poor people. If you have a field, you have to leave a corner for poor people. So they said, where do you need to do it? Besof sadeu, which means you don't put it at the central part, but you put it at the lo techale, at the corner of your. So why? He said 4 reasons. Mipnei gezel aniyim, because of the poor people that maybe gezel aniyim, that the theft from the poor. Mipnei bitul aniyim, for the force of the idleness of the poor. Another one is mipnei chashad, because of the suspicion. Umishum bal techale, and it's also for the mitzvah of account you shall not finish. So now we explain it. Mipnei gezel aniyim, for the first concern is because the theft from the poor. Shelo yir'eh bal habayit she'a pnuya. If the owner will see that there is the spot, that the moment that it's not, it's no poor people in his field. So he said to his relative, here is the corner. So what happened here? His nephew or his relative come there and he collected all the corner, and the other poor people will come there and it's nothing left. So the Torah said, no. You should leave it whenever you finish collecting the field, so all the poor people know the exact timing when they need to pick it up. Just turn the page. Umipnei bitul aniyim, and also for the end harvest of Pe'a requirement is also because of the force of idleness of the poor. Shelo aniyim yoshvim u'meshamrim. עכשיו מניח בעל הבית פאה. So the poor people are sitting there, and they are hungry, and they have no idea when he's exactly planning to finish cutting and collecting all the field. So therefore, they put it in such a way, mipnei chashad, and also for the suspicion, שלא יהיו עוברים ושבים, those who come pass by, אומרים תבוא מהרה לאדם שלא יניח פאה לסדר. If he leave it for the poor doing the cutting of the field, so people who pass by his field, his property, at the end of his field, and they see no poor people, what do they think? That he never gave a charity, he never gave the leftover, he never put the corner. So the Torah required him to put it at the corner, so no one suspected him for being greedy, for being miser. Umishum bal techale, and it's also for the Torah commandment on the account of you shall not finish off, which means What is Bal Techale? Atu Kulu Lav Mishum Bal Techaleninu. So all the mitzvot is not for finish off. All of them explain why he needs to leave it at the finish of the katsir. So finish off. Why does Rabbi Shimon list the verse as a separate concern? Amarav Pnei Rama'in. All right. All those people who are not honest, deceives, and they basically they said, "Oh, I gave to the poor people earlier. Why you bother me now?" So want to avoid that, the Torah said, no. You do it at the end. You do it at the corner. You do it at the end of the collection. You put a very, and the size, it's in your choice how big, but that's the end has to be. Now back to Hanukkah. אמר רב יצחק בר רדיף אמר רב הונא, נר שיש לה שתי פיות עולה לשני בני אדם. If you have a menorah, but they have two holes in both sides, right, two openings on different side of its cover, so two people can use it. אמר רבא מילא קערה שמן והקיפה פתילות, כפה עליה כלי עולה לכמה בני אדם. If he filled a dish with oil and surrounded with wicks, so before needling he placed a vessel over the dish, the kindling count for several people. לא כפה עליה כלי, he didn't put the dish, cover a vessel over the dish, הסעה כמין מדורה, make it like a large fire. ואפילו לאחד נמי אינה עולה, because the mitzvah of Hanukkah is in the candles and not in the bonfire, right? That's not the fulfillment of Hanukkah. Bala Itur, the Ran said that if you make it separate, if you separate between them, and as long as it not looks like a bonfire, it's fine. אמר רבא פשיטא לי, נר ביתו ונר חנוכה נר ביתו עדיף. Right? If a person is poor, for example, you have only one candle, and you have a choice between Shabbat or Hanukkah. So the answer is you have to have Shabbat. Shabbat is more important. Mishum Shlom Beito. The one of the reasons for lighting Shabbat candles is Shlom Bait, to create a peace in the house. Why? Because if you sit in a house and it's dark, so it's not a peace. A person, you sit there and he has a great sorrow. So therefore, Shabbat take precedence. Ner Beito v'Kiddush Hayom, Ner Beito Adif. Which means, Mishum Shlom Beito. Which means, if you have a choice between Shabbat candles or Kiddush, so lighting candles is more important. So they ask a question, the Rashba asked a question, so how come this is rabbinic and this is biblical? Lighting Shabbat candles is rabbinic, and Kiddush on Shabbat is from the Torah. So how come rabbinic supersede Torah? So Rashba explained, it's not the idea of Kiddush. It's if a person cannot afford wine, so he can make a Kiddush over the bread. So therefore, if you have a choice, if as a poor person is a choice, so therefore candles is more than the Kiddush, since you can make a Kiddush over something else instead of using wine. Anyway, but some say that here they talk about such a poor of the poor person that even he cannot afford even bread, and therefore if he doesn't have the money for so you have the choice between bread and candles. So that's a very severe case, and by the Torah a person can make a Kiddush even without wine or bread if they are a present situation. It's enough when you said during the Mariv, you mentioned the Vaychulu, that's enough. So that's Mishum Shlom Beito, the value of Shabbat candles. By Rava Ner Hanukkah v'Kiddush Hayom Ma'u. If you have a choice again, someone who's poor cannot afford both, so he said Kiddush Hayom Adif. Why? The Tadir. We always say that something is more frequent, take precedent. Or Dilma Ner Hanukkah Adif Mishum Pirsum Menisa. Maybe you say the opposite, that Hanukkah is more important because you have to publicize the miracle. He says, Batar de Ibaya, Hadar Pashta, Ner Hanukkah Adit Mishum Persum Benisa. Which means that Hanukkah is so important to publicize the miracle, and therefore, if he have some money left, he should buy wine for Kiddush before he buy candles for the others, for other needs. Amar Rav Huna, Haragil Bener, now we talk about several mitzvot or Shabbat and Hanukkah. Haragil Bener Avil Benim Tamidei Chachamim. If one wants to have sons or children or future generation who is people involved in Torah life and scholars, he should be very scrupulous of lighting Shabbat candles, like Hanukkah candles, so you blaze with having a future generations. Hazahir b'mezuzah, one who is careful. Mezuzah. Rashi, by the way, said ner mitzvah Torah, or that the light of the Torah is from the ner mitzvah. Haragidir b'mezuzah, one who is scrupulous with mezuzah, zochel dirana, he married with a nice house. Haragil betzitzit zochel talit na. If someone gets used to tzitzit, he married to have a nice talit. Hazair b'kiddush hayom, a person should make the kiddush on the wine. Very careful that zocher maleh garbei yain, which means he will merit it to have his own yekev, his own vineyard, his own wealth. Rav Huna, now his story. Rav Huna, Hava Ragil Dava Khalif V'Tanya B'Chad Rabbi Avina Gara. He used to pass by this place. So Rashi here said, Klomar, look at my book, Klomar explanation, I'm running out of time. Anyway, Chazad Avi Ragil B'Shra Getuva. He saw that he always light a lot of candles, both Shabbat and Hanukkah. Amar Rav Huna said, Tre Gavri Rav Rivkin Avki Macha. He is sure that because of Shabbat and Hanukkah it is scrupulous, you have two great people that come out of him. And the result, it happens, Nafkemi now, we have two great scholars, Ravidi Baravin and Rav Chia Baravin. Two great rabbis come from him, because he was scrupulous in lighting Shabbat candles and Hanukkah candles. Rav Chizda Ragil Davar Chaliyot Yad Beina Shel Rav Shizvi. Chaz Avar Ragil B'Shra Getuva Amar Gav Rabba Nafak Me'aracha Nafim Hu Rav Shizvi. Same idea. He saw someone scrupulous lighting candles, and he said the great rabbi come out of him, and he turned that it was. So the wife of Rav Yosef, she used to light the candles, but it was close to the time of Shabbat. She didn't violate Shabbat, but she didn't have an addition. She did it purposely to show that she's doing it for the honor of Shabbat. Rav Yosef Tanya lo Yamish Amud Yoman Amud Yesh Laila. So why they say that the pillar of cloud and pillar of fire protected the children of Israel when they left Egypt? Why need to do it both pillars? Melamed, it means Shamud Anan Mashlim Amud Yesh, Amud Yesh Mashlim Amud Anan, which means that one completed the others. One fire come before the other one come in, and the other one come in before the other come in. So Rashi said that that's the proper measure, that they make the one pillar was ready before the others finished. So he basically he wants to tell his wife that she should make it a little earlier to light the Shabbat candles. Savra la'akduma. So after the husband commented on that, she thought that they should make it earlier. Amar lahu Sava, one elderly sage, said to her, the Tosfot in Chulin said that that's applied to Eliyahu Hanavi. Anyway, he said to her, Taneina, I learned in the Braita that you can light the Shabbat candles anytime you want to, bilvad shelo yakdim shelo ya'acher. As long as you don't pass the time of lighting Shabbat candles, which means as long as you're not in violation of Shabbat, so you can do it earlier or late, as long as it's not violation of Shabbat, it's fine. Again, there is a lot of practical halakhot in that, but let's go for the end of the Amud and then we discuss practical halakhot. Amar Rava, derachim Rabbanan, havu lebnein Rabbanan. Whoever love Torah scholars, which means that he loved them, treat them with royalty, etc., he will marry to have children that they are Torah scholars. The Moki Rabbanan, someone who's either owed them or treated them probably Havule Chatvenat Rabbanan. He will marry to have son-in-law that Talmidei Chachamim. That's a big blessing, right? To marry son-in-law Talmidei Chachamim. I must say that my wife and I are very blessed. Baruch Hashem. We have son-in-law that it's one of the luminary giant rabbi in Israel. Baruch Hashem. Right? The Rosh Yeshiva tells us when he engaged, he said, the walking computer is leaving the yeshiva. How we survive? He told when he gave a shiur klali, a general shiur in yeshiva Keren B'Yavne, our son-in-law, anytime he needs the source, he doesn't need to go to the book or the computer. He tells him the exact source. So it's a big blessing. The Dachil Merabanan, one who has the awe, the fear of Talmidei Chachamim, who Gufei Avetzuv and Rabbanan. He will be one of the sages. The Maharal said that one who basically make himself like nothing, he is like sit. For example, one of my teachers, when the other rabbis used to come, he used to sit like one of the students. In other words, he never make himself like someone. So he will become a scholar. V'ila barachiu, mishtaman milei ketzuva de Rabbanan. So people will take him and he will be one of the sages. Now back to Ilchot Hanukkah. V'lo b'shemen srefa. We said that we lighting Shabbat candles not in the shemen srefa. Shemen srefa, it's a burning oil. Amar Rav Hashemen shetruma shnitmea. That's applied to the shemen of the truma that become impure. V'may karu la shemen srefa. Why you call it shemen srefa, the burning oil? Huil v'lisrefa omedet, because the impure truma is forbidden by, even for the kohanim to eat. So therefore, we call it shemen srefa. We call it in that language. That it's like burning oil. Ubeshabbat ma'itama lo. So why you don't light it for the Shabbat? Even you tell me that impure truma is forbidden to eat, but you can, later we said in 25, that you can derive joy from burning it. He says, because we knew that you need to burn it, we are fear that he maybe it maybe will tilt the lamp and if perform a forbidden labor, so we forbid him. If you tell me that that's the concern, so how about Yom Tov? Yom Tov you can transfer. Why he said so why we said later in 24, page 24, that one may not kindle the oil or must be burned on Yom Tov. Yom Tov adu Shabbat. We basically juxtapose to put a decree that needling with the oil on Yom Tov account on Shabbat. So just both is a rabbinic decree, right? So they said Rav Chizda Amar lo yatel lo chayshinan. We're not worried about him tilting. We talk about Yom Tov that is on Friday, that it's attached to Shabbat. If you have kodashim that is pasul, that is invalid, you cannot burn it on Yom Tov. We later learn it. Later we discuss if it's rabbinic or biblical. So because at the end of the Mishnah we said in 24 later that we don't do it, so it means that the early part of the Mishnah we don't deal with it. He said no, my tam kama, the second Mishnah explained the first one, which means that if it was a Friday that when you have oil from teruma that it's impure, so the second Mishnah want to imply indirectly ma tam and madlikim b'shem srefa b'yom tov. What's the reason that we don't light a burn oil on Yom Tov? The fish and sofim kolashim Yom Tov, because we may not burn a sacred offering on Yom Tov. Practical הלכות, הדליקת חירש שוטה וקטן. So we differentiate between different categories. If someone who is a minor, he is insane, he is a deaf mute, so those people, it's meaningless if they light the candles. However, women, it's different. Women is obligated to light the Hanukkah light, the same as men. Indeed, women may recite the blessing on the men's behalf. That's the Magen Avraham. But all the others, deaf mute, incurable minor, candlelight, they're accomplishing nothing. Achsenai chayav b'ner Hanukkah. A guest whose family is not lighting for him at home is obligated to light Hanukkah lights where he's sleeping, assuming that the Mishnah said that he has a lamp and a separate entrance where he can light, or alternatively contribute a coin, pruta, something to defray the cost of the light, so the host include him in his lighting. That's the Rambam in chapter 4 in Hot Megillah b'Chanukkah. V'shemen zayit min hamuvchar, the best of lighting candles is olive oil. Kol hashmanim yafim lidio, all the oils are suitable for making ink. The blessing of Hanukkah lights, we have the first night 3 blessings. Madlikim שעשה ניסים שהחיינו, and from second night and onward is 2 blessings, Madlikim and שעשה ניסים. The next one is a famous question, Ve'echan tzivanu, where has God commanded us to light the Hanukkah candles? So it's a very important Rambam in the Hilchot Brachot, chapter 11. He said, performance of all rabbinic ordinances is preceded by a blessing with the formula, one who has made us only through his mitzvot and has commanded us. In all those cases, the question arises, where did he command us? He commanded us in the Torah, which he tell you should do. That's the Torah said. The meaning of this, the blessing is God, who sanctified us by meaning of his mitzvot, command us to obey those who command us to light the Shabbat lights and the Hanukkah lights, and to read the Megillah, etc. And then we said another halacha. We study its חצר שיש לה 2 פתחים. If a courtyard have a 2 entrance, so we said if the house have a courtyard 2 entrance facing a different direction, is obligated to light Hanukkah lamps in both entrance, so that you will not suspect that the family will not fulfill the mitzvah. Some say that one who owns 2 houses, even they are face a single direction, is obligated to light in both houses. That's the Ramah. But in many cases, one who light in 2 entrances recite only 1 blessing. About leaving the field, Pe'a. If you own a property in Eretz Israel and you leave a Pe'a for the poor, so he said the Pe'a at the end of the field, you have to put it at the corner. You have to leave it at the very end of the collecting the field, and make sure that all the poor people, in a sense, get a part of that, not just one person, not just the relatives. נר שיש לה 2 פיות, if oil lamp have 2 spots, so it can be used by 2 people. נר ביתו ונר חנוכה, one who lacks the means to purchase oil to kindle both the Shabbat and Hanukkah lights. So the Rambam said in Hilchot Megillah v'Chanukkah chapter 4, he said you need to purchase for Shabbat lights. That's the key. Now, if it's Ner Hanukkah v'Kiddush Hayom, one will lack means to purchase both oil for the Hanukkah lights and wine for Kiddush, so he should purchase oil for Hanukkah. Why? Due to the obligation to publicize the miracle. That's the opinion of Rava. The same is true when the choice is between oil for Hanukkah and wine for Havdalah. So again, we need to publicize the miracle, and that's the reason for doing it. And then we said here, last halacha, said shelo yakdim velo ya'acher. One may not kindle the Shabbat light too early or too late. It's prohibited to kindle the Shabbat light if one does not accept all the prohibition of Shabbat at that time. However, it is permitted for one to kindle the Shabbat lights less than 1¼ hour before sunset, which is a plaga mincha, and accept all the Shabbat prohibition immediately. That's the Or HaChaim, Shulchan Aruch HaChaim 263. And it's important, as we said many times, that all these stringencies when it's come to Shabbat and Hanukkahs are bringing a lot of blessings. We mentioned indirectly in the Gemara that bringing a future generation and bringing blessing to a person's home. Just we have to remember that when it's come to Shabbat, Hanukkah is first, and then the Shabbat candles second, because the minute you're accepting Shabbat, you're lighting Shabbat candles, so you're accepting Shabbat, then you cannot light the Hanukkah candles, it's already Shabbat upon yourself.